I think let's start. So thank you for joining everyone. This is our Feb monthly inflow client call. Um, this time we have something special for you guys. Rather than me and Manish talking about whatever we feel like is happening in the world, we have invited our friend Vinayak. Manish will introduce Vinayak in just 1 minute. He has agreed to share his insights and what is happening with AI. If you guys saw the news in the recent times, India hosted the big AI summit last week. Some 2 lakh people have been it's been said that some 2 lakh people attended the summit. A lot of world leaders came in. So we all know that there is some big activity happening with AI in the whole world. We thought that the person who's closest to us, who knows a lot about AI and how it's impacting people directly, is Vinayak. So we'll probably ask him to come and share his insights. So Manish, if you can just introduce Vinayak a little, and then we'll give it to Vinayak.
Yeah, I'll happy to. So, guys, first of all, good morning. As always, thank you for showing up. Time is your most valuable asset, and the fact that you're here already puts you ahead of 99% of the investors. And we appreciate you giving us the time. Today's call is slightly different. We are not just talking markets, we're talking the forces that shaping the next decade. The AI, this like the big guy in the town, the elephant in the town. And no better person than Vinayak to talk about it. And luckily, he's a friend, so he's agreed to it. And so let me introduce Vinayak. Vinayak is basically he runs a 150 plus tech team working with global clients. He's the CEO of Go Digital, based out of Mumbai. So he's not just sitting on Twitter threads talking about AI. He's actually building the stuff in the trenches. So today's conversation would be very simple. What is the real artificial intelligence? What is the hype about? Is the hype justified? And most importantly, what it means to for business, jobs, economy, and how is India getting affected? Uh, and just a brief, I met Vinayak basically in Professor Sanjay Bakshi's flame session. He was sitting right next to me. That's how we became friends. Serendipity, as you may call it. Neither me nor Vinayak practice value investing now, but that's how we met to start with. So with that, I hand it over to you, Vinayak. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Manish. Good morning, everyone. Um, I'll probably just add on to what Manish said. So I've been in the technology space for a little over 18 years now. A good portion of that went into consulting and technology consulting and IT services. What we help our clients with today is building data products, AI first products, and whatnot. And I must say that even though we are at the center of it, it's so fast a changing world that I don't think anyone can say that they're an authority in it or really come to terms with what the impacts are going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. But what we do on a day-to-day basis is try to analyze the change that's coming in, try to see what is it that's not changing as much, try to see what are the impacts of change that we can embrace and grow the practice. And so I thought I can gather some of those insights and present it to all of you because it paints the same picture at an industry-wide level. The industry is, of course, super fragmented. I mean, the kind of projects that we have is everything from mainframe systems, which are 4 decades old, all the way through to AI and Gen AI products that's being requested by the clients today. So, depending upon the type of company, the impacts could be different. Depending on the type of project, the impact could be different. But let's probably go through a few slides where, I think we can together think about what does this change mean, and identify for ourselves what does it mean to look forward 3 years from now and 5 years from now from a impact perspective. So I started to share my screen. Manish, Varina, can you all confirm if you guys can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's on.
So, generally there's been a lot of talk, especially in the markets, on what's going to happen to IT services companies, what happens to tech services companies in such an AI-led world where change is the only constant. And, a company like Claude comes up with industry competing products every single week, and we see software stocks crumble in the US. We see IT sector services stocks crumble in India. Um, and so, what is at the heart for India is probably a lot of the IT and tech services work that we do. We don't build a lot of softwares, but we do a lot of IT and tech services. And that is what has been at the center of what is it that I've tried to put together. So we'll go through this together. So the first question that I think all of us are asking, whether we are part of the industry or investors, is, how relevant is IT services and tech services? It's super fast changing. What does that mean for jobs? What does that mean for productivity? What does that mean for demand in the sector? What happens to revenue growth? What happens to profitability? And it's kind of broken into two camps. The people who are ready to embrace the future are the people who are looking at okay, AI coming probably opens so much more avenues. We were restricted to just doing the coding aspect today, but we can probably increase our sphere of influence. We can do so much more for our clients. That's one camp. Those are the guys who are happy with all the revolution that's happening. And then there is the other camp, which is like, will we be able to pivot? What's going to happen? I mean, can companies embrace this change? Is it going to be total demand destruction and whatnot? And so we'll get into some of the factors of that. But before I deep dive, I know that the audience is more of an investor community. So I just thought I'll break down some of the common terms that's showing up these days in the news. If you read anywhere about LLMs, they are just large scale pattern matchers, right? And it's just built on top of the entire internet data that we've created over the last 3 decades. I mean, every user data, every kind of data is what is used to shape up an LLM. And GenAI is kind of like a stochastic parrot. I mean, it's a parrot which can, based on the data provided, based on the kind of weightages that it gives and creates biases, it can continuously churn out information. So that information could be code, it could be articles, it could be summaries and whatnot. Agentic AI is something which goes on top of it, and it can actually act. So it's actually taking all the information from the internet, it's synthesizing it, it's creating an opinion, and it's also creating an action. That's kind of like the breakdown. And what this means is a lot of the work that the IT sector used to do, which was code and build systems for clients, is under threat. Because what used to take significant amount of time is getting done in very less period of time and with very less manpower. Like we were doing a math that's showing up more recently, and it's evident within the enterprise ecosystem is rudimentary coding has become a commodity. What is to take a month with 10 engineers is a week with a couple of engineers and AI on top of it. Now, the bias that we are beginning to see is that, and again, we could be wrong, but where we are beginning to look at is, if a carpenter is having better tools, the reality is we should be able to build way much more, and we should be able to build better furniture with it, rather than default to what used to be a difficult thing in the past, which used to be just build code. For investors, what this basically means in terms of fears that we are having is, okay, the IT industry has a lot of billing. The billing model is basically on time and material, which basically means you bill a developer for the number of hours that they work and not really the outcome essentially all the times. It possibly means revenue growth is going to get impacted, margins are going to get impacted. Probably clients begin to insource more than they outsource. And most of the support work that the industry used to get used to be for 3 years and 5 years. And so are those quasi annuity contracts impacted? And so the idea is, as AI continues to make one impact after the other, is growth and earnings at risk? Is EPS at risk? And before we deep dive too much into some of those aspects, I probably wanted to shift the lens to, why do companies outsource? And it's basically because a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi or a Nike, they want to focus on their core business. They want to build their products. They want to make beautiful shoes, or they want to make good colas, and they want to focus on the marketing and the distribution and generating an income out of that, and not necessarily write code for the systems that track their shipping and inventory, right? And it brings us to an important system. When a company wants to focus on its core business, it wants someone else to take the accountability of the technology that they're deploying. They don't want to make it their core focus. This has been at the heart of all outsourcing. So you can Google your health issue, and you can figure out with ChatGPT on what a health condition means, but you don't start popping tablets. You actually go to a doctor, and you want the doctor to own the solution and the accountability of the solution. And that's exactly how the IT services companies have been for their customers. If any of you have been in the IT field, you guys would have heard of service level agreements, which means the enterprise applications that were built or being managed by some of these companies like Infosys and TCS. There are SLAs that are embedded within the contracts. There are penalties if the application doesn't perform at a certain level and scale. There are legal responsibilities that are underwritten by some of these contracts. And then you want to build systems for resilience and stability. It's very different to build products as if college students would, or somebody who just wants to prototype and build something new for a small enterprise. It's very different from what it means for large Fortune 500 companies. And so this, we think, continues to be at the heart of all the work in the future. Companies would, we think, want to continue to outsource because nobody wants to work on these ownerships in-house. They would rather give it to someone else and slap them with a contract fine or change of contract if they're not able to meet these SLAs and penalties. And so this is one thing which we think could continue to drive at least outsourcing to continue. So regulatory and liability risk could actually increase in an AI world because we'll be creating so much more systems and so much more systems and technology products that the regulatory and liability risk will only increase. The other thing is, these are very complex systems. So when you look at an enterprise, their entire supply chains, if you take an example of someone like a Coca-Cola, there's tons of data that their systems have, and everything right from where the food is getting made in the factory to where it gets warehoused to how it gets shipped, how the distribution and marketing happens. All these systems are super interconnected, and there are users who take real world decisions based on it. So it's like trying to say if we can rapidly build and just keep deploying to production, or keep shipping technology products for these kind of companies, that could have other impacts. It's like trying to say I'm going to build and update an airplane systems when I'm actually in the middle of a flight. So you really can't do that. You really want to make sure that what you're building is robust, what you're building is resilient, what you're building is really tested, has the blessings of the stakeholder, and then it's deployed in a manner where it's controlled and any issues can be quickly fixed. So what outsourcing also entails is building systems guarantee and stability over and above the SLAs and the legal contractual risks that we said. And the thing with enterprise systems being highly customized and highly integrated systems, which must be stable. So these two are some of the key reasons which we think won't change in the future. These would continue to be reasons why companies will continue to outsource. Now let's look at the demand side economics, because just because they're going to outsource doesn't mean we are going to have the same amount of revenue or the same kind of profitability. Again, we are trying to discover this together, right? So as some of these things could fail, some of these things could morph over time, but this is what our thought is. So one option is, as coding becomes hyper efficient and it's very cheap to build systems, there are two ways enterprises can go about it. One is they say, you know what, you're not going to be able to do it fast, I'm going to pay you less. The other thing is there's just so much of technical debt. I mean, working with some of our customers, we just know that they even pre-AI, they had like 3-year and 5-year programs to build systems. And so all it's going to mean is that they're going to build more of those kind of systems, and they're going to prototype and pivot quicker. They're going to do 10 more things. So we think that there is a good chance if you're on the right side of technology and right side of client economics who want to build more systems, you're going to see a lot more budget reallocation or expansion. They're probably going to build more things. So there's going to be more experimentation. It's going to be more hyper customization. So instead of just building a web UI, now maybe they can iterate more for the mobile users. They can think at every user of the product at different layers within their enterprise and hyper customize for them. These things would be super expensive in a pre-AI world, but because it's cheap, it could just mean that a lot of that could expand. So we are working with our customers to do more experimentation, more prototyping, hyper customization across layers, and do more. We really think that the deep systems integration, the more number of systems you build with AI, the more complex the integration is, and you need to have more accountability. So it ties back to the first two things, but there's more from a demand side perspective. The integration means that you just need to be able to build more robust systems. There are new growth avenues that typically unlock at every leg of technology wave. And this is something which is not spoken as much. So one of the things that I've put down over here is that deployment in areas where tech ROI was poor. So what I mean by this is that, tech at certain stages is very expensive. So if you can take a biotechnology company which is trying to identify a certain kind of a predicament, and it used to be hard trying to catalog all those sample data sets which pertain to those predicaments that people would be having, and then to actually put that into systems and run analytics on top of that, and then build products which actually can diagnose the uh, uh, the health issue in advance. But with AI reducing the cost over there, I think those kind of industries could really take on embracing tech way more than what they would in the past, because now they could do 50 things at the same budget. And that means more products, and that means better healthcare. So there are going to be sectors and areas where the deployment is going to be better, because the tech ROI traditionally was very poor. Also, we must keep in mind that IT services was largely dominating in the in the Fortune 500 to Fortune 1000 segment. That would possibly mean 80% of the revenue for most of your IT services guys. And we think that that circle could grow as well. You don't need to be concentrated on the same 1,000 customers to milk your revenue. Democratization of tech and democratization of software would mean that you can actually expand that horizon and have more touch points with different customers and build products for them. So we think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot more systems growth with a focus on resilience, because the more complexity that you add to a system, the resiliency is what comes under threat. Think of it like a very complex portfolio or complex set of derivatives that you may have had, and the risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So you got to focus on resilience. And you just for total human energy or compute energy, you just build more intelligence for your customers. That's what we think is going to go on the demand side. So we kind of covered what the demand side looks like. We kind of covered what companies really get through with doing outsourcing. And this basically for us looks to be a space where we think value will shift from simply coding, which used to be 70-80% of the kind of time and energy and money that was put in by enterprises to build the kind of products that they had. For service players, it becomes adding way more value within that same budget by knowing more about the client and their clients' businesses. Now, a lot of Indian IT companies are actually closer to that than we may think. They're actually managing all these systems. They're managing the business processes. Again, it's ownership or accountability outsourcing, right? I mean, it's not just code-based outsourcing. You're also managing the accountability for these systems to be correct. So you already know a little bit about the domain. You already know why the customer is building systems in a certain way. So that domain knowledge is something that needs to be levered more. You can do a bunch more of customization for your customers today. You'll integrate closer to the business. So instead of being just large engineering supply chain teams which can code, you'll get closer to the business. You'll focus more on the processes and seeing how you can do more with technology for those guys. Anyone who's been in tech will tell you that most of the systems that most customers have is outdated, anywhere from 2 decades to 3 decades old. So AI is also going to do a lot of rapid modernization and tech debt removal. And so that could be a long driver of work over the next 2 to 3 years. As more and more AI systems come in, AI governance, audit trails, security, integration, and governance is going to be at the heart of all that we do. So that's where the shift seems to be coming in. I mean, from raw coding to domain understanding, process integration, hyper customization, and applied intelligence using AI. This is how we think the value will shift. It depends upon every company, how they're going to tie into how they're going to convert that value shift into revenue and profitability. And that is something that, as time progresses and as the world moves on, we'll learn more about it. I think that was a long blurb. I'm happy to take any questions.
Pretty awesome presentation, Vinayak bhai. I tell you what, the amazing thing is that what you are presenting, I could relate it to even the non-IT world. You touched base about responsibility outsourcing. That is such a powerful heuristic. If you look at it, I mean, I'm sorry for comparing, there is no literal comparison, but for the sake of hear me out, I just thought, mutual fund distribution business is also nothing but responsibility outsourcing. I mean, think about it. In today's world, uh, mutual fund तो कोई भी खरीद सकता है. There is direct in town, there's coin, there's 1,001 apps, but it's essentially the it's essentially the outsourcing of the responsibility, full spectrum thing that you've outsourced to a professional that is changing the game. So pretty fascinating. Uh, I have one question, and we'll open it to the audience as well. You said this transition thing is happening from coding to now you will have a whole holistic value offering. Is this the same set of people who would do it, or there will be a huge turnover in the industry? People with coding jobs become redundant and new set of hires would be needed?
It's going to be a mix of the two. And there's a lot of stats outside. So, if I would have taken anywhere in the last 10 years, whether we had a recessionary year or not, one thing that IT companies would always do is go to these engineering colleges and hire in bulk. Now that number has been completely collapsing over the last 3 years. So I think the industry is also bracing for not taking a lot of freshers. Now, I don't know how smart that is or non-smart that is. For small companies like us, it's a boon because we get access to talent now. But I think the large companies are already seeing that, okay, because I need to be closer to the client's business, I need someone from the domain. Maybe I need more senior experienced people who can actually do this. And so, you could have a churn because the way IT companies work is they have these large clients which are like 300, 400 people strong. So, one client may be adopting AI at a rapid pace and the other may not be. So you'll see attrition in those 300 people account and not really in the other 300 people account. So it's set to a lot of factors, but I think it's going to be a little bit of both. You're going to have job losses from some of the code base, especially guys who can only do the rudimentary coding piece. We also have to, if I can answer this question at length, one thing we need to keep in mind is the the exact opposite of what has happened in the last 3 decades of outsourcing probably is required to adapt to this AI world. And what I mean by that is, and I'm trying to get a good example because I don't want it to be tech heavy, but what we've done is we have supply chained the IT industry. So suppose we want to build a product, we get in people at every piece in the supply chain. So think of this like an assembly chain, which is used to build cars. There's someone who's just like a database administrator who's only like doing the bolts of the tire, and then there's someone who's just putting the steering wheel. He's kind of like the plumbing guy over there. There's someone who's just putting the windshield and whatnot, which is the visualization guy and whatnot. And it was required for the kind of systems that were being built. uh, what was not appreciated is someone who can put the entire car together, because it was just too expensive and was against the key initial win of IT outsourcing, which was just getting dollar savings. But now what is going to be advantageous is a guy who can actually put the car together or can look at serious parts of the assemblies which are important and speak to the customer about it and do better work. Or if I take a CAD world equivalent, if you had 100 people who would be drawing CAD diagrams back in the days, when AutoCAD came in, you want people to really now stop focusing on making those diagrams and ask the questions like, what is this space going to be used for? Do you want more ventilation? Do you need more lighting, right? And so the exact things that drew the supply chainification of the IT world, the reverse of it is going to be required thought process wise and mindset wise to get closer to the customer, to their business processes, and actually make a difference. So the industry will hire some people from the core domain areas is what we think is going to happen. And that's one easy way to add value. You will see a lot of engineering companies become closer to custom product companies, which are customizing the gains for the customer. And that just means that you need more senior guys and not as much freshers and whatnot. So you'll have that tumultuous shift in terms of the kind of people that are going to be added and that's going to be taken out in the medium term. In the short term, it's going to be very project to project specific, like, which client adopts AI first. And it's not as easy for large companies to adopt AI, by the way, because, like we deal in the data space for the clients, and most of them are still struggling with their legal to get in systems where they can upload their data and manage their IP and confidentiality and propriety. And that itself is going to be, say, a 1.5 year journey. So no AI development till then, right? It's just that we are pivoting so that we are ready when they are ready. But it's going to take a while for Fortune 1000 to really adopt legacy. And it's been the same thing when it was cloud 8 years before. You would hear about security and IP and confidentiality with cloud. That's the same thing you're listening with AI today. But I think it's going to take so coming back to your question, it's going to take a while for all companies to actually go to AI as they get out their legal risks. During this time, depending upon their low end use cases, they'll definitely let go of talent, which which for projects which are embracing AI, don't want to pivot to the next level. And we'll see people getting added who are, say, from the domain and whatnot, or the business process integration side, who can really add value. So it's going to be a combination of all three.
So, great, great. So, do you have any data around this fact that the big guys have stopped hiring freshers from the campus?
Yes, I think I should have something with me. Give me a
Yesterday,
second.
yesterday only someone put it on Twitter. There was this graphic that the fresher hiring is now coming down and lateral hiring for seniors
Yeah.
is actually on the rise. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just gonna.
Vinayak, I had a question. So, from my
Yeah,
understanding, uh, the whole IT industry that we built in India was initially built on the idea of labor cost arbitrage. That
yeah.
if you do the same thing on your own sitting in the US or say some other developed country, you can get the same thing done in India for far cheaper. Now, with AI, my understanding is that business model gets a direct threat that labor cost arbitrage itself might not be the only thing that makes you survive. So do you think IT companies themselves need to change their business model now and not work on a cost arbitrage thing? Second part of that question, if that was the initial reason why a lot of outsourcing was happening, now in a world where uh, so how does that still work in a world where people might still want to worry about their costs, but they might say that if I was to do this in-house, maybe it will be cheaper than outsourcing is. I mean, considering the points that you mentioned about the legal aspects, and I don't want to be responsible for things going bad. But if say the costs of doing it in-house are cheaper than outsourcing it, which might be a possibility with AI, do you think that people might not actually outsource?
I think so. So three parts. Actually, I'll first take on the other question asked. I put in an image in the chat. I don't know how many people have access to the chat, but it basically shows uh, something which is a metric called net addition. And this is from Times of India. So between FY25 and FY26, FY25, the net hiring has been 17,000 people, and FY26 first 3 quarters has been just 17 people. Can all of you see that? We are looking at a grand total of a two-digit number called 17. That's all that the big five have hired in the first 3 quarters of FY26. And
Wow.
these used to be in lakhs. Okay, these
But
numbers
but
used to be in lakhs.
this is because TCS has a very big like negative number, right?
Even then, I mean, like if I would want to say about 4 years before, the net higher number would be close to about a lakh between
Hmm.
these five companies.
Hmm.
I was at my alumni college recently for some hiring event. Generally, whenever Accenture comes in, they take easily 100 people from the college campus and they go. This time around, they did zero. They did a grand total
Wow.
of zero, right? And it's one of the premier institutes in Mumbai. So it's for real that fresher hiring is getting impacted. And I think it's more of the industry taking a pause to see, okay, what's happening. I want to keep a view before I hire a bunch of people, because firing in India is very difficult. So I think it's a wait and watch kind of a thing. Varenya, to your question on um, so there are two parts. One is the labor arbitrage and the other part is the SLAs. I still think SLAs continue to stay, because if you insource production systems, like I'll give you an example. One of the analytics products that we run for a client is, if there's a general insurance client, think of a hurricane coming and hitting the shores in the US and a number of properties getting damaged. So at this kind of time, they need to deploy people to go and get an understanding of what is the claim per household and pass those claims. Um, on the day of a hurricane, if those systems fail and they've insourced that talent, uh, there's no point in firing them, because they lose the knowledge capital, and there is really no impact because they have to hire back the same set of people or similar kind of guys at the same kind of a budget. But where the SLAs and the penalties tied to the SLAs and the liability management, which or the accountability outsourcing, as I say, has worked for the Indian IT firms, is there's an actual SLA penalty which gets slapped if you miss out on certain enterprise grade SLAs. And so I think for those reasons that will continue to stay, because that allows the customers to focus on their core business and leave the IT part for someone else to manage. It's difficult to get high quality talent unless you are in the West Coast and you're running big tech companies. What you get otherwise is very mediocre talent, and it's a chance outcome on are they really the kind of people who can support those systems or not. I think cost arbitrage will continue to stay at scale. I mean, if I want to think about, like for one of our customers, we're working on like 15 AI, Gen AI, agentic AI composite kind of use cases. So they're continuing to hire in the US, they'll continue to hire in India. But still at a group to group level, there is a 1:4 arbitrage that still exists. Like getting the right kind of an AI contractor over there or an AI employee over there and getting the work done over there continues to be the same with hiring somebody in. It's still a 1:4 arbitrage, so that cost arbitrage stays. What won't stay is if the client team is building an AI first kind of a team over there, and the team which is there in India is an old world team, then it's a 1:infinite arbitrage, because that guy will basically automate everything that this sort of team does. So the bigger question is going to be how many of these companies can pivot their culture to becoming AI first. Like I was doing this session in my office, and I was like, how many of us know how to write an email? So like everyone put their hands up. So everyone was tech first. And I asked how many of us use AI to do code development. Like there are like 6 hands that went up. Because people are still skeptical. There's a lot of self-validation that comes in by typing your own code and whatnot. And so AI first means that can they think systems AI first? Can they build in a world where you're looking at the KRAs of the client and not really how many lines of code you've shipped? So I think pivoting to that AI first mindset is going to be very challenging for extremely large companies, because you need to change everything from the middle management's way of thinking and whatnot. But eventually they will change when they see the disruption and when it impacts the top line and the bottom line. Whoever will be able to pivot will be the people who will really survive, and that will automatically reset the culture across these orgs. Like I was hearing about Accenture. Accenture is now tied. They have a proprietary in-house AI tool, and they're going to tie compensation hikes and bonuses to the number of logins that the employees have to that tool. So they're pushing for that AI first culture. So I think that AI first culture is going to be the bigger nut to crack. And once they adopt it, then the cost arbitrage remains the same, and then the liability outsourcing broadly remains the same. What happens to total headcount? I think that can only be offset by the explosion of work that if it comes, it comes. I mean, otherwise there will definitely be a net impact. I mean, 15-20% impact in headcount is a given if the scope stays the same.
Hmm, hmm. So let's open up for Q&A to all the participants. If someone wants to ask the question, they can unmute themselves and ask.
Vinayak, just have one question. Thanks for the presentation. It was really insightful. Even as Manish mentioned, the SLA part was something which that angle I never came through my mind as well. It was something new. One question: how are the technologies going to be used in future? Say, for example, currently, instead of thinking in terms of product, currently everybody thinks of tech stacks, as you mentioned, like Java, Progress, SQL, all these things. But if AI comes into picture, is it more that we talk in terms of product, which outputs a solution, rather than which tech stack we use and how are it going to be utilized?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for our current world, if you're from the IT services space, what we support is departments of clients and the business process within those departments. So I think the pivot happens to custom solving the KRA problem of the department. Like I'll give you an example. If you're working with, say, a company's telecom department, like every company has a telecom and BPO department to take care of their customer care systems and services. You can go incremental by saying that I'll automate A to B, which is what traditional IT used to do, which is continuous improvements. Or you can basically say, you know what, you're having a 50 people team which is sending out emails for all these kind of problems. Let's make a knowledge set of all the problems that your telecom team has gotten in the last 2 years, and then we'll automate the response part through an approval mechanism, right? And then what happens is you basically reduce the cost of sending emails to a tenth. You've got it down to 10%. So it's going to go down to understanding the business process and custom solving it for your client at that level. I think solutions and products are on top of that. Solution and products ke liye kaisa na Rakesh, it requires a different mindset. So I don't think services companies can quickly adopt that because it's very marketing heavy. It's a lot of cash burn. It's a lot of capex. I would love for the companies to change that way, but I think it's a complete different mindset change. So looking at the lowest hanging fruit, as I said about the telecom department and the customer care service, like if Indigo Indigo, whatever event they had in November or December, they probably have all kinds of email responses and questions that would have come out in their customer care department just in the last year, what would be any airline department's last 5-year data. If you can create a knowledge base off of it, and if you can respond to those kind of emails, you basically reduce the cost of running that call center to a 10th. Now, intuition would want to tell you that 90% cost is eliminated for the telecom, but that's not how it works. Actually, now these agents, I mean, not the AI agents, the telecom agents can sit on top of that and go to deliver even more better customer experience. They can actually liaise with the customer on a phone call and improve customer experience. And we've heard of small companies that are adopting these kind of methods, get way better throughput for their employees in the non-tech space and also in the tech space. One example that was on Twitter, I think a week ago, was Bajaj Finance, right? I don't know, they went through some 100 crore call recordings and they've improved the cross-selling throughput for their customers. This is exactly the kind of KRA IT services are supposed to now hunt behind. How can I take a department's problem? Because with large companies, it's mostly departmental data that we are working with. You're not working with the entire company in one go. But if you take, company like Bajaj Finance that's doing call center calling for people, you just, identify that, and, you can eliminate a lot of biases that happen where, customer call agent is not great enough to deliver the message or the throughput. And then you have AI embedded and improve that throughput. You learn through all the call center recordings, you automate that, and then you increase your total revenue that is possible. I think a very long answer, Rakesh, but all I wanted to say is that the next best step for IT services is to attack the business process front within the departments they're already working. Look at how they can get the cost to a 10th or improve efficiency 10x. And then, with all the rudimentary aspects out, how can we repurpose that same task force to deliver so much more? Because it's not that all these call center agents at Bajaj Finance eliminated in loss of jobs for call center people. They just help them sell better. They could target the next 20% customers within that 100% database and sell more to them. And that is aap pakdoge the same expense pay, you have increased revenue. So the entire thing flows into profitability. So AI first company and AI first business process departments will see their margins go through the roof. And the people who are not adopting the right kind of AI will see margins be in the traditional world. So you can technically increase your ROC and ROE significantly at a departmental level by getting the right kind of AI.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And one follow-up question, how does the patenting part comes into picture? As in one of the slide, you mentioned that the cost of iterations or risk-taking becomes less in case of AI. So does it also mean that there could be more of in-house development rather than outsourcing, because your iterations for the cost of iterations are going to come down, and if at all you get something out of it, then you would like to patent it, if you outsource it, it might be a knowledge for someone else.
So technically confidentiality, even though, we've had people working out of these huge IT parks where they can switch buildings and change companies, has never led to business process knowledge creating an issue. So confidentiality hasn't been as big of a problem for IT services, but where rapid prototyping helps is, today if a customer has to, go through an exercise of building a product, what typically happens is that, the product is revealed to him only during user testing and whatnot. I mean, at a very later stage where it's very difficult to rebuild the entire application. But I think rapid prototyping allows you to really show a discovery early on. So think of it like, if you're going to do a renovation of your house and the architect is talking to you versus the architect gives you a 3D diagram, right? That 3D diagram tells you more than 1,000 words in terms of what you're going to see in your house. So I think a lot of rapid prototyping can happen initially. You can build wireframes for the customer to see, what, this is your business process and this is where we can embed and we can make your life better, and you can give that real world solutioning. So you can prototype or you can create wireframes initially at a much lower cost. You can aim for hyper customization even before the product development seriously starts by using some of these rapid tools. I again don't think it's going to be a lot of insourcing. You know what, for a new company, they can insource, but a lot of the Fortune 500 companies are now embedded over the last 3 decades with some or the other IT vendor. Every department, every customer or other has an India team. So it is very difficult, because now the knowledge has been shared and that sharing ratio is at a 1:8 level. So one onshore guy with 8 offshore guys. So that knowledge has already been shared. So to completely strip them off and to think insourced, I think it's difficult. For new small companies. Yes, they can do it. But for the traditional companies which are at scale and which have deployed so much, it's going to be difficult to take out the offshore team and look at it, especially when there's not a lot of IP at risk. They would rather use the outsourcing and get the cost arbitrage instead of getting 3 people, that they can get 8 people total and then do it. But they need the right partners for it. They need the right employees also for it. The employees also having, all these companies over there actually having in-house talent that can really think is going to be very difficult also.
Okay. Thank you.
If anyone else wants to ask something.
Hi, Vinayak. Excellent presentation. My name is Srini. I'm from
Hi,
Hyderabad.
Shini. Thank you.
I had a question on, you made an interesting point on hiring for IT services and everything. How do you think, because, it feels like you need more generalists and people who have business domain knowledge. How do you think it'll affect the education system in India? Because, most today, engineering colleges are like plentiful everywhere. They are churning out people who will be eventually working in IT services company. But if that whole link is broken, like what is the right thing? As a daughter who's aspiring to do something, this is just a general question. What is the right thing for them to pursue that they can be prepared for this onslaught that will come in the next 5 years or so?
It is such a tough question, and I think it's true for children of all ages. Like I myself, I have a 3.5-year-old, and I think, whatever school is going to go to, how relevant is it going to be for a world 2 decades from now? And if you're, having a daughter who's in engineering or in late colleging, it's difficult to say. I'm going to give an answer which is, probably going to sound dumb, but I think in the new world, more human centricity is what is going to become the best aspect that you can have. It's going to be very difficult, because one thing that I keep telling my team is, we used to spend 80% of our time coding, and, we'd care less about the customer. And, the more you can liaise with the customer and be having empathy, not to his personal needs, but to his professional needs and to the client centricity needs, I think you're going to make a world of a difference. So in a world where machines can beat us, I think the only edge we have is to be better humans. In the work that we do. So it's I think from a professional perspective, having critical thinking abilities is going to be very important. So whether you're a generalist or you're a techie, the guys who win in this kind of a world is, all of us have used GPT. Even if you tell it to write an email, I'm sure all of us have come out frustrated because वो email exactly वैसा आया नहीं जैसा चाहिए. So it's still not there, but I'm probably trying to talk something which is like 10 years from now, assuming everything goes right. And there are a lot of white papers, folks, where they also say that LLM actually gives up. There is a white paper on this by Apple. It came out yesterday. I'll try to get the link and send it across. That LLMs for super complex problem actually begin to give up. And it actually explains that behavior, because every time I've worked with GPT for a long time or with Grok for a long time, after a point I've seen not just diminishing returns, but stupid returns. Like I've seen outputs which don't make sense at all. And it's apparently because they stop using tokens even in an unlimited token world. So we have a long way to get to super efficiency. I think till then we are safe. I think we at least have 6 to 8 months. All the talk about in 6 to 8 months we'll have artificial general intelligence. I could be very wrong, but I don't think that's happening, because I at least need to get one email right over the next 3 months to be able to believe that. I think it's going to take several years. But within that, I think what really helps us is having critical thinking skills, just generally being able to understand the customer's problem correct. Any of us who've been in IT, sometimes I ask my team, what are you working on the product? And they'll give me some tacky answer like, we are help improving the customer experience. And I'll be like, what customer experience? मतलब data में क्या है? कौन सा product? आप call center वालों का customer experience बढ़ा रहे हो कि आप, are you, if you're a utilities company, outages कैसा हो रहा है, कितना खराब हो रहा है, impact उस पे improve करा रहे हो? What experience are you improving? So, people don't have answers to that. And this is true for most of IT, even the IT departments that I've seen in the US. So I think truly being customer centric, truly understanding the problem, having a critical thinking lens, I think is something that is going to beat it in a world where IT or AI is going to be biased and is going to give you very super generalistic answer. Plus, it's so confident. That stochastic parrot that I had on my third slide was for a reason. It gives you even lies with utmost amount of confidence. Now, it's not lying to you, it itself doesn't know that it's lying. It's based on biased data.
True.
So I think, for us to have a BS meter, a bullshit meter, sorry if this language is not allowed on this call, but to have a strong BS meter, to have critical thinking skills, to be able to liaise with the customer very well, having the right kind of soft skills, having the right kind of empathy is what is going to make us a way better professional 10 years from now than what has allowed us for today, because today we could default to just coding well, and that's not going to help as much tomorrow. Srini, I don't know how much I answered your question, man.
No, you answered it, especially on the trade part. I actually had a side question for Manish, but well, maybe what can answer that. I mean, one of
Please
the
go ahead.
guys whom I read about is a guy called Clifford Asness, and he talked about how they are using. I mean, there is one guy, Brian Kelly, in his team who basically has changed how momentum kind of investing and other types of investing have changed significantly, and they now don't have clarity as to why a particular thing works, except that they can look at like millions of data points to figure out a strategy. And I mean, I mean, I remember Manisha, somebody in your team put a paper around how a mutual fund manager can really be mirrored by another system. I think that was an NBR paper. How do you think that this is affecting the investing world? If you have a few thoughts, either Manish or like.
So,
Uh,
so I did go through these papers, Shri, and I think this is still work in progress. We're still shooting in the dark, and there is no conclusive evidence that this is actually productive. But yes, every day there is a new surprise coming. But जो पेपर मैंने देखा था उसमें तो they were still shooting in the dark. There was no conclusion.
Okay, thank you.
I will add my 2 cents to it. See, this is a ongoing question in the entire world, how AI is going to change different professions. A lot of professions are changing very fast. A lot of things will change very fast. I am traveling to Melbourne right now, so I was having this conversation with someone. They told me that we are telling our kids, if you want to become a doctor, you can't just become a doctor. You have to simultaneously also study how AI is working and how to use that to enhance your skills as a doctor, because normal doctor degrees are not going to be worth too much. Now, looking at that perspective, if we think about investing, right, the core of investing is not changing really. Uh, if we say that the idea that you buy something and then that company or that asset class does well, and it makes you money, nothing about AI is going to change that. What can change is, how do you analyze businesses? How do you think about doing back tests? How do you think about doing momentum tests? How do you run those same tests on a even larger amount of data? Maybe the ability to do that will change. So there might be people who might do well using those tools, but I, as a uh, investor or a student of history, will also say that emotions are still not going to change. So until and unless every trade out there is being done using AI and AI bots and there is no human intervention, until that happens, I think things will remain quite similar to what we see today. Uh, People will still have their opinions. Markets will still work the way they work. Some people will be bullish, some people will be bearish. They will have different opinions on the same stock, on the same asset class. So things might continue to remain the same. But yeah, the way the business is done might change. The tools that people use to do their analysis, the tools that people use to come to conclusions, they have already changed to quite a bit extent. A lot of value investors have started using AI for research. A lot of momentum guys have now moved their code and their backtests to AI. So the tools will for sure change, but from a core perspective of how investments are done might not change really.
Thank you. Thank you. You answered
So
both of
just
my
to put
questions,
things in
Aranya.
perspective,
Yeah.
when I wrote the code for MWM, this was such a manual process and it took me so long. I mean, every day a line and every month a new idea, but whatever. Now, AI can write that entire code if you know the hypothesis in less than 10 minutes. So
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So we have written this code internally that we can take any mutual fund, the scheme data from Amphi's website and then run a back test on it. So 1 year back, I would have taken maybe 4 to 5 weeks to write that code because it's not my full-time job, even though I understand a bit of coding. Now I did it in 1 day. Okay, so it didn't take me any time, not even 1 day. It was just half a day. I wrote a prompt, the code was there. I just had to test it a bit and it started working. So the way we are doing things have definitely changed, but what we are doing has not changed as such. But think of this thing, right? Uh, I just had this conversation with someone which doesn't apply to India that much. A lot of pain points that people have who are living outside India is to do with home cleaning. Now, almost everyone today is using a robot. The robots that you might have seen, which became popular during COVID, which clean your house. So they saw these robots are now about to come, which are actually bigger in size, bulkier in size. They can even go up and down the stairs. They have arms which can clean and pick up stuff. So they are saying they can't wait. As long as it is a product and it is out there in the market, they are going to buy. They are willing to pay as much as a Mercedes Benz because they are saying that our lives will improve a lot. So so there are products out there using AI that will completely change how the way the world works, how the way the world does what it does. But maybe for investing, I particularly don't feel that threatened as of now. Yeah, that's my perspective. So Vinayak,
or
I
or or
have
maybe this is very interesting, or maybe we are those uh, buggy manufacturers when the car was
yeah,
invented. We are
yeah,
living in that foolhardy कि हमें कुछ नहीं
yes, yes, that we'll be blindsided and everything will change. Yeah, but time will tell. So Vinayak, I have an interesting question for you. We spoke about outsourcing, right? How outsourcing will or will not be impacted. What about product companies? What about SaaS? What about people who have invested a lot of time and effort in building products, IT products especially?
Yeah, this there are two answers. I have a industry view answer and there is a macroeconomic view answer, and I'll say both. The second one is something that could be deemed controversial, but this is a small group. I can talk here. So I think for enterprise software, I think there's a lot of blowout for mission critical applications. Like if I'm using my HR management suite, that's not something that I replace overnight with no reason. So I think for some of the very deeply entrenched items which have a lot of rules like accounting software, like there have been so many products that have come after Tally, but you go to any chartered accountant's office, you go to anyone's bookkeeping system, it's 80% is still Tally. And that's
Hmm.
because you don't change something which is not broken and which works. I mean, with India and the bureaucracy, the number of updates that come into these kind of softwares. So, there's a deep domain expertise, already existing network effects of people who use that product, which is very relevant to that space. And third is how important it is within the client's ecosystem from a data perspective. So if I'm looking at sales and invoicing and inventory and something like that, which doesn't really change a lot because of rules, sure. I mean, in a few years, I can switch to someone else who's giving me a 50% discount. maybe that works. But if I'm looking at HR management software where labor regulatory rules come in, finance where taxation and accounting comes in, I think it's going to be way more sticky than we expect. And nobody wants to jump in to a new company. One of the reasons why Indian IT companies have never invested in building products is one of the companies that's even listed in the in India is Majesco. I spoke a long time before to one of their directors who told that how difficult it is to get a product buy-in in the US with their customers. So it's not that easy to distribute and get the faith of a customer, and you need a sizable network effect before adoption happens. So I think in the enterprise software space, the risks are looking blown out. But I think the risk is getting attacked from two forms. One is that what was, like if you use, what is that? Peter's five forces, industry forces. I think Porter's five forces, sorry. So, the incumbents are getting challenged because someone else can develop it. Sure, that's kind of like hitting a little bit over there. One is cost of substitution of somebody who can do it. And I was thinking, who can do it? Can I do it? No one's going to buy an HR software from me. Nobody, right? So in the US. So what's going to happen is probably PeopleSoft can now build what Salesforce is building. Salesforce can now build what Workday may be building. So to that extent, they can, because even they are those kind of seasoned names. So these are like those car companies, like Maruti ने जो बनाया वो Toyota बना सकता है, but मैं कल कार का company डाल नहीं सकता हूँ. So I think enterprise softwares में they may compete amongst themselves. They don't need as much legacy capex. Like if you took $100 million to build an HR software, now you can definitely do it at 25 to 30 million because these are custom solution products. So maybe there's going to be more competitive pricing that can come in from within the incumbents. But I think typically when it is like an oligopoly, it is going to be that profit margins will be retained. So I think to a good extent the fall will get sustained after a point in time, but the competition will come in from the incumbents is what I feel. Of course, a couple of providers like Claude and all who are really doing in that space, even they can come in, but regulatory area mein wo log bhi nahi aayenge. Matlab they'll not get into HR software and all of those things. Like it's just too much stickiness that is there over there. The macroeconomic view that I had is, we had a decade and a half worth of investments that was happening in software companies from the global investors. And global investors had two tailwinds over there. One is they were getting to invest in almost quasi monopolies, which were able to grow at 15 to 20%. And they're getting a 5% kicker because of the dollar strength. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have been looking at DXY and the currency relationship between the G7 currencies, but the dollar has actually fallen significantly compared to most of them. And so for a global investor, even if earnings and growth remains the same, they're seeing a negative carry of holding these stocks. Now, if you add the Porter's 5 industry threats, where the future can be at risk, it only makes sense for them to pull money off of it. So I think it's more of, I could be very wrong here, guys. I'm not a macro guy, but I think it's a significant dollar play that, a lot of the software only investments are getting pulled out, and that's showing up in the lieu of AI risk. It could be AI risk, but AI risk, it has to really be a lot of stickiness, and there's still that oligopoly at play. So I don't think margins go to zero over there. So that's my overall view.
Anyone
by the way,
else?
I put in a couple of things on chat. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's one of Apple's white papers on how they see for complex tasks LLMs are giving up. So do read it. It's a small one, but do read it, guys, when you guys get a chance. We are still at this world, we are not into reasoning yet. We just have beautiful English speaking parrots at this point in time, and they can do a lot of the rudimentary thinking, no two ways about it. But complex, interlayered, interdependent information, it's still failing. So we are far away from AJS, my gut sense.
So see, things for which it has really had an impact. So one example I saw today, one of my cousins, he designed a logo. So he didn't pay someone to design a logo. I think those jobs are going to go away for sure. Okay. One of my friends, he's a product photographer. So yesterday only I saw this video. You upload just one product, it will create a whole video. It will create all the images. You don't need to do any branding. Everything is done by AI. You don't need to do anything. So those simple, easy tasks for which people were being paid a lot of money, they are going to go away.
So I actually wrote a blog on this. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, again, I'm not an expert, but अभी तक जितना मुझे समझ आया है, see, wherever the variables are bounded, AI is a monster. It's a beast. It can kill it. Wherever the variables are unlimited and unbounded, where interactions of various variables can happen. वहां
Yes.
पर the independent thinking, that AGI bit, we are not there yet.
Yes.
Like
So
chess में variables are bounded, rules are defined, 64 squares ही हैं.
yes.
चाहे millions
Yes.
and millions of possibilities हों, because they're bounded, AI will nail it. You cannot, no human can beat AI engine.
So
But
Charlie Munger gave the example of not the example, the concept of complex adaptive systems, where there are a lot of variables, but both the number of variables and their nature keeps changing. So the system itself is a complex system, but it adapts, it changes. So I think AI is not very good at handling those kind of challenges. But Manish is bang on, where the variables are fixed, where the task is fixed. It's pretty bang on right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the world is a very complex adaptive systems, so all participants
Yes.
need to
Yes.
react and get to a new normal together. So uh, yeah.
Anyone else who can we expect to see more GCC going forward? Krishna has asked the question.
um this is a tough one here. My gut sense says yes, we are going to have more GCCs going forward. There may be an initial pause as companies digest all this information and change, and they look forward to year of. So people have already commissioned, budgets are doing it. Anthropic is having one of its largest GCCs that
Yeah.
it's going to build, quote unquote.
I was
So
just about to say that. Yeah.
yeah, but the trend is difficult to fight. I think GCCs will continue to go forward. um, it's just arbitrage that they can get so easily at scale. So anyone who's looking at over 100 people team or 200 people team, even if it cuts down by 30%, we're still looking at, 80 to 200 and above. So I think there's still a lot of cost savings over there, and they'll still go ahead with it. We should remember that India still has the largest engineering pool. And so it's, at scale, we'll be able to get people is only in India.
So Krishna, let's do a thought process. Okay. Uh, Warren Buffett taught us that to predict the future, the mental model that he uses is to look at the past and see what happened in the past. So whenever a new technology has come in, say if it was internet or it was computers or something like that, whenever a new technology comes in, it enables a lot more new kinds of businesses. Okay. Uh, what we are talking about today is how the old businesses are dying. Nobody knows what kind of new businesses might come in. What if the world changes to a world where instead of having thousands of people in one company, there are two people companies and they are running the organization size itself becomes two people, but there are millions of organizations. Okay, we don't know if that will happen, but that is a possibility. So if something like that is going to happen, may or may not happen, maybe the GCCs will not go away. They'll just shrink in size and more number of people will be using it. I would urge you to read the con calls of all these REITs in India who have office spaces. And as of now, it doesn't seem like something is wrong. They all have very high occupancies. They all have more demand coming in. More people are being hired for the GCCs. Uh, I don't see any threat as of now, at least. But 5 years down the line, nobody knows. And tech is such a world, things change in a year. So you don't know what is going to happen. But as of now, the trend is not in the direction that GCC is going away. One more thing, one more interesting thing that I have come to realize in the past few weeks only is India has a lot of human capital. The world doesn't have a lot of human capital. Almost all the countries are looking towards India to provide people. Now, one funny example is Russia is fighting Ukraine, and a lot of Russians have died. So Russia is now looking for Indians to provide capital, human capital to go there and fight the war for them. So there is a program right now in Russia that if you go and join the army, they will give you a citizenship, Russian citizenship, because India has so many people. Uh, Today here in Australia, I was having this conversation. The same problem here. The labor cost is so high that to install my cousin, he works in a solar company. So they have this product where you can install a solar panel on your house, and now they have batteries which cost around $12,000 one-time cost. To install those $12,000 batteries, the labor charges $3,000. Okay,
So, sorry to interrupt, Varanya. So this is the answer to Srini's question as well, as to what the future holds and what you should teach your daughter and son. I think make them electricians and plumbers. That's where the future
Yeah.
is.
yes, yes.
Skills,
So
yeah,
see,
basic skills.
Elon Musk also said, right, wherever there is atoms moving, still there is not much threat from AI. But I am of the opinion if AI is going to be that strong, maybe in the future even that will be threatened. Why can't a robot be a plumber? Why can't a robot be an electrician?
So weddings in
Yeah,
India
again, it's
certainly
about
will not be
timelines. It will
interrupted by
take
AI.
time.
Yeah, it will take time, but
Yeah.
we live in a world where things are changing every week. So
True. No, weddings in India will never change despite AI, whatever that is.
yeah,
That
weddings will never change. So the best is own a wedding banquet hall.
Wedding photography would
Yeah,
change, I guess.
yeah, photography
At
might.
least.
Great. If anyone else has a question,
I have one question. See, GCC talks about the commercial side. I wanted to know the impact on the retail uh, real estate. Uh, is there any direct correlation? I mean, I see in Gurgaon right now, these IT fellows have taken 3 to 5 crore loans as if their jobs are guaranteed. And the entire Gurgaon real estate is basically hinges upon their sustainability of their jobs and their exorbitant salaries. Do you see some tactical shift happening there and the repercussions?
is that question to Vinayak or?
Yeah, I think Vinayak is the
I can
IT
take a
guy,
stab.
although I know he won't know much about real estate, but yeah, it's open to anyone.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about Mumbai. That's where I stay, primarily because Mumbai mein IT is 1.5 to 2%. But I definitely fear for all geographies where IT talent is a significant portion of the top 3% income denomination, not just in India, but also, I have some cousins in the US in the West Coast. The kind of job losses that's happening in the Seattle market and some of the markets, and those guys being 40-50% of the contributing force, it's going to be difficult for real estate appreciation or even keeping up to current prices. So I think
Yeah.
that is true. I heard something about REITs. The only thing that I have heard is that in India the domestic demand is also going up significantly. So GCC is the current driver, but why the commercial guys are not as worried is because they're thinking in 3 to 4 years, manufacturing, defense, a lot of those kind of things will also begin to pump up a lot of real estate demand on the commercial side. So I think
Yeah.
commercial side, if India continues to grow the way, like if you would have gone 15 years before, high income job generation was only IT, but that is kind of changing across with other industries in India. So I think India that way is blessed that other areas are coming in together at a time where IT may be slowing down or pivoting or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
think if I were, Manish, your question, if I was in Bangalore or a city like that, I would be a bit pensive about real estate for residential. Not in Bombay, man. Bombay, I don't. I think it doesn't.
Yeah,
Like if there's
Bangalore
a
might
five
be the
percent
biggest
dip,
thing.
there's 10% supply demand increase. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my investments are in Gurgaon, so इसलिए maybe
I have no idea.
I shift the question to Varanya then.
Hey, I don't have the answer. I also am with Vinayak on this. I am not very bullish on Bangalore real estate anymore because that is totally driven by AI. Sorry, by IT. Gurgaon, I don't have the numbers, but I don't think it is as much IT. So Gurgaon real estate is also about people moving out of Delhi, who have their old houses and they are now selling it off, or they want to be closer to their factories, or now they have young kids who don't want to stay with their parents and they want to buy another house. A lot of demand comes from those kind of people. A lot of demand also comes from people who are coming into Delhi NCR to do their first jobs or second jobs or whatever, and they want to now buy a house for a nuclear family. That demand as of now doesn't seem like that it's going down. But yeah, if see, IT is a big employer in Gurgaon as well. So if IT jobs take a hit, for sure real estate will sort of see some impact. But Bangalore, I'm really worried. Pune and Bangalore both.
Got it.
so
So
one
maybe my sample size is small. So four of my neighbors I noticed in that Shobha property uh, were all IT guys who have taken crazy loans. So yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that we are seeing throughout real estate in India is that the premium properties are actually doing extremely well. There is huge demand for
Yes,
premium
yes,
properties. It's a
yes,
mid segment that has gotten hit a lot, and it's
yes,
yeah, that is the IT segment. I mean, they would. I mean, most people don't have crores of salaries in IT. Like they would have maybe 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs. That's
yes,
say ballpark, and they would buy properties around like 1 to 3 crore. That's the range,
yes, yes.
and that probably is already slow and it's not doing well. And I think it may get hit.
Yes.
At least we see that in the
So,
numbers.
so the big premium houses are being sold by DLF. All the 100 crore ticket sizes that we see are all DLF. Just look at DLF's stock price. 900 rupees stock price is now somewhere around 600, not able to go up. So I don't know what the brouhaha is all about. But Srini, you are bang on. The numbers are not that great. Market also recognizes that stock prices are not going up versus someone like Ashiana Housing in Delhi, which is basically mid segment housing. They just released their results and the stock went up 15%. So Indian real estate market is very fragmented. Every city has its own way of doing things. Ashiana is concentrated too much in Delhi NCR, so maybe they are seeing something different. But yeah, no other player is seeing a good time. Shobha, Godrej, um, Kolte Patel, none of their stocks are doing pretty well right now.
Ashiana is in the retirement space, so that's another big thing for them.
No, they are not just in retirement. They were big in retirement, but now they are
Yeah.
also in mid
Mid
segment.
tier, mid segment player.
Yeah, normal housing. Yeah. Krishna has said if adoption is gradual, the economy can adjust. Yeah, I mean, Krishna, the whole idea with AI is that adoption might not be gradual, it might be exponential. And the job losses, just like Vinayak said, in the US are very real as of today. Um I know people who are telling me Amazon has started letting go of people left, right, and center, especially the warehouse jobs and whatnot. So the job losses are very real in the US. They are very real. I'm right now in Australia. A lot of people are telling me the things are not very good here as well. I just spoke to someone who used to drive a truck. So he's saying even for grocery chains, the number of trucks that they are using has cut down. So it might just be exponential. We don't know. The whole topic is whether it's exponential or not.
Well, a side point here, because when you said about job loss in the US, I was doing this math with somebody recently. So if you would have seen, most of the job losses recently were in this figure of 16,000 to 20,000 per company. And the other number that I want to say is that most of these big seven tech companies which want to deploy data centers, they all are going with about $100 billion worth of capex every year for the next 4 to 5 years. So when you take it on a 5% interest basis, you're looking at about a $5 billion interest payment that they have to do. Now, if you just do the math of the 16,000 workers, an average guy in the West Coast gets paid about $250,000 here easily. Okay, तो 4 लोग पकड़ेगा तो $1 million होता है. Okay, and अगर आप 4,000 बोलेगे तो $1 billion होता है. Okay, 16,000 20,000 पे $5 billion बनता है आपका. So I don't know, are they offsetting the $5 billion in capex interest with $5 billion? Because I have always been a believer that if I was running a $2 trillion company, I wouldn't bother about $5 billion of salary expense. I would rather make them do more. So it was very counterintuitive to me why these $1 trillion companies were firing people. And the only thing that kind of has started to make sense to me is that they want to offset. I mean, look at it. Google is setting up 100-year bonds, and they are pulling up hundreds of billions of dollars. So where does that capex spend get taken care of? So they're actually, I mean, I could be completely wrong, right? But the numbers were just startlingly close to the kind of capex spends that they're having. But if they just fire 15,000 people every year, it kind of makes their debt free of cost from the existing P&L, and then their future business kind of becomes more easier to experiment with.
Yeah, that's an
Very
Otherwise,
interesting point.
yeah.
So people are just interest expense.
That's I mean the math is crazily close to each other. Like और मैं हर किसी का देख रहा था मतलब all these data set Azure, GCP, all of these guys are doing 100. Google is the most. Google is doing $150 billion worth of spend every year. Like they've already put it out for the next 5 years. So they are doing like $750 billion. And these are large capex spends. You're basically telling for a $2 trillion company, 40% of their market cap, they're going to raise debt over the next 4 years. And that is something that can destroy your entire value proposition to your investors. And there's some way that you need to be able to make up for it. So this is the only thing that makes sense. So I could be wrong, I could be right.
The only tech company that is not doing that is Apple. And I have not
They're
heard of any
software
job.
first.
Yeah, and I have not heard of job losses from Apple.
Yeah. And Apple is playing this game beautifully. I mean,
Yes.
my brother happens to work for Apple for the last decade and
Yeah,
a half. And I mean,
I think they are the ones who will come out at top.
absolutely. They are playing a test match,
Yes.
Apparently, Warren Buffett doesn't agree. He's long Google and he's pairing his position in Apple.
But I think now it's no more Warren Buffett. It is the second generation people thing.
Yeah.
In fact, Todd Combs has also left. So someone else might be
Ted
taking
Weschler.
his-
Ted Weschler is probably the one.
Yeah,
Greg Bell.
probably Ted Weschler, yes. Anyway.
And Vinayak, just to the question related to data centers, like some of the service companies are trying to set up. Does it even make sense for them to start spending money over setting up the data centers and giving that as a service?
I think India has improved the odds by giving this tax break for 22 years. So, for a US based data center, what I've read, now I've not gone into the economics of it beyond a point, but what I've read is the return on capital employed is less than 2 digits. So it's 8 to 10% is what they say is the ROC for data centers. I'm 100% sure operating that out of India is going to be way cheaper, right? I mean, I think hardware is like 45% of the total cost. Electricity is going to be cheaper in India. Labor services is going to be cheaper in India. The tax arbitrage makes it efficient. But when I go down to the total math of it, what happens when a lot of participants come in? That part is kind of unknown to me. So I don't know a true answer to it, but I think the tax breaks definitely make it lucrative for a lot of those companies to come and set up in India. And in this world of geopolitics, India is the only country which is looking out sane to work with other countries. I mean, बाकी सब लोग तो एक दूसरे से लड़े पड़े हैं या फिर मारे गए हैं, something like that. So I think India is a very helium kind of a neutral, a non-reactive kind of a country which is just standing there. So it makes sense for the future of a lot of data centers to be built in India. We spoke about the kind of manpower that's required: electrician, plumbers, construction workers. I mean, if all those guys could get a handsome salary for running data centers, that's great for the economy. That's great for us. The government seems to be proactive with a 22-year tax break. That's a big statement. So I think it will evolve. I think that experiment should pay off if they're able to do it in a proper ROC manner, which the tax efficiency allows for. I hope I answered that
And
question.
is it analogous to like what they say, exporting of sugar is exporting of water? Since there are apprehensions that whether ramp up of electricity supply in US can happen so fast to set up the data center. Are they outsourcing it to us?
It's true for the entire world. I think if you ask anyone in AI, 2 saal pehle, what was the bottleneck? The bottleneck was access to chips, right? That's where companies like NVIDIA and all could make a difference. Now the holding factor or the bottleneck is actually the energy, because it takes 3 to 5 years to build a nuclear power plant and operationalize it, connect it to the grid and put it away. And then, I mean, sure, people are pivoting to solar. Musk is talking about having space data centers. I don't even want to wrap my head around that, but energy will become something that will become a scarce asset with which we need to do it. Clean water, so my gut sense is they'll find out some way to use salt water, clean it and use it for that. It's not like a human being drinking water. So I think there'll be some industrial solution that'll come to it, but energy will be a bottleneck for the next 3 to 5 years to scale data centers. It's great for a country like India, which is becoming heavy in the renewable space to power some of these data centers. I think net India के लिए positive, because उधर का cost of production of electricity से better अपना है.
So
But
I
then
was
they are
going through.
offsetting. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, please,
You go ahead.
Vinayak.
So
Sorry.
I saw this interesting video which said that a key reason why all these companies are looking at India to build their data centers is we have water on three sides of the country. So
Correct.
the cooling requirements are taken care of from that. See, my perspective is whenever something like this happens, if you look at year 2000 and when the internet was coming in, everything was blah 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 blah. This will happen, that will happen. This company will do that, that company will do that. We will invest so much. End of the day, something completely different happened. Okay, a lot of people died. A lot of companies were not even able to survive. We don't know what will happen, but thing is it's something that is going to change the world. It is here to stay. Who will be the winner? We can't say. Why will they be the winner? We can't say. Only time will tell. But yeah, it's all interesting.
Mm. And also the technology related to data centers, are they rapidly changing? And because of this reason, they just want to outsource this risk to a separate company? Because I was reading something related to RAM and ROM, and majority of the companies go bust because the RAM technology changes so fast. If you are in the right place at the right time, then you make humongous amount of money. But if not, then the time taken for you to ramp up to the new technology, by that time there is already a new technology, and you would be just holding up with your entire capacity of no use.
So I don't know about that. I think that is a bit speculative in nature. And as Varina said, I think some of those things would be transient and they'll keep changing as we go through it. I think with artificial intelligence, we are basically all these big seven companies are trying to get to maximizing the per unit production of intelligence per unit of joule. Matlab, how much of intelligence can you produce per unit of joule is what they are trying to do over a longer term. So in that, I think, whatever allows them to operate the hardware at the most cost efficient point would be one of the other driving factor. And so that is where they will, I don't want to say they want to get the responsibility away, but it's going to be the cost of operations that will be driving a lot of their decisions on where they set up and how they set up, and resilience from having the ability to control. Like if they put it up in China, they won't have control to the systems. They put it up in
Yes.
India. That's why I said the geopolitics makes a very warm situation for India to actually be at the heart of all of this in a world where nobody's able to trust each other.
So who's going to be the winner? I think
Oh, nobody
we
knows that.
can't predict that. See, there are precedents in history when a lot of car companies were operating in the United States. Uh, Everyone thought that this is the big trend and cars are going to rule the world. In the end, I think United States has what 10, 15 car companies that survived. Same with the internet. Lot of pets.com. So many companies came up. Not many survived. I think the same is going to happen here. A lot of people will start building data centers. A lot of houses today are having these discussions. If we have money, why don't we build a data center? And it will sort of become a commodity. That is just how economics works. There are no switching costs as such. Even if you think about chat gpt versus gemini versus claude, uh, right now one might feel better than the other, but as such there are no switching costs. You can just use one and not use the other. So but this is all speculation. Okay, I don't know who will be the winner, why will they be the winner, but what we do know is all these companies are going to spend a lot of money. And as we mentioned, there's one company out there who's just watching from the sidelines, which is Apple. And my bet is that they might just turn out to be the winner. So think of it in this sense. Apple controls their entire tech stack. Okay. What if they are able to embed a technology like I just talk to my computer and everything gets done? There is no internet required, there's no nothing else required, no LLM required, no subscription every month. And my operating system is just so powerful that everything gets done. They can do that. Nobody else can do it as such today. Microsoft, I'm pretty sure they don't have the capability now because they are so focused on data centers and AI. But anyway, these are all speculative things. We don't know what will happen in the future. But yeah, if anyone else has a question, I think we have taken a lot of time, Vinayak's time. So if we can have just like one more question, if anyone wants to ask. I think not. Uh, Manish, I think we can then close it. Vinayak, thank you so much for doing this. And I think this session was very insightful for all of us, and we learned quite a bit from you. Manish, anything you want to say?
No, that's it. This has turned out better than I expected. This was a very valuable masterclass. I learned a lot of new nuances, and I really appreciate it. Once again, thanks a lot, Vinayak, for taking out your time from on this Sunday, and thank you for the audience for doing the same.
Yeah.
I really
Thank you all
appreciate it.
for coming.